time for round 4 of Season 13 Championship. Before we get into the 90-minute race at Spa, let's have a quick recap of where we are with the Drivers and Teams Championship. McKinley continues to lead, taking away a victory at Laguna Seca. So 2 victories and a second place means he's got a 35-point lead over Artem Reshodko, who's in second. Jesse Halen is in 3rd place. He had 5th place at Laguna. That gave him a good haul of points. So he moved up 2 places just ahead of Maciej Karaziak, who dropped down 1 into 4th. Furkan Hosman of Amino Assetto Motor Hersteller is in 5th place, but he was unable to race at Laguna, so that caused him to drop down the table. Steve Bezic, myself for Beeswax Racing, I somehow have managed to get into 6th place on the table. Pretty good finish at Laguna, 4th place, one of my best finishes for a very long time in AOR. Philip Schmijak is in 7th place. He was also a non-runner at Laguna Seca. Steelco is in 8th. Good position for him at the end of Laguna, 6th place. Thomas McCready didn't race in round 1 at Valencia, had a dismal time at Donington, but had an amazing finish at Laguna with 3rd place, so he's leapt up the table into 9th position. And Lord Nem just hanging on there in 10th place, didn't race at Laguna, but has just enough points to be inside the top 10. Looking at the Teams Championship, no change at the top for Celtic Bromance. Big lead over Beeswax Racing with 139 points. Beeswax Racing moved into 2nd place last time out. Steve Bezic and Lord Nem moving just ahead of Amino Assetto Motor Hersteller. Lord Nem didn't race, but I was awesome, so I carried the team for Lord Nem on that one. So Furkan Hosman and Berke Arras dropped 1 place down into 3rd. Gently Bentley moved ahead of Manuel Rutter Racing Academy, Paul Martin and Manuel Duque. 60 points behind Amino Assetto Motor Hersteller, so they got some work to do to try and overhaul them. The Manuel Rutter Racing Academy, I think Philip Reuter and Jonas Como may not be racing with us anymore, so I think this team will continue to drop down the table. Fuzzy Lama, Viking Rap and Stuart Pietzke / Pie Eater have got 25 points, and I think they'll be hoping to move up from there following this round at Spa. And Hexagon Nation, Chris Jenkins and Tobias Harkinson struggling a little in the league, and they are rounding out the Teams Championship. So 90-minute race ahead, open on the pit stops. Not necessarily, it's not mandated to change tyres, but it's highly likely you're going to have to change fuel, and everybody certainly has to stop at least once. Let's see how this one goes. Spa's always a bit of a challenge, and the weather prediction is a little uncertain. There's always that possibility of rain. So the drivers are lining up for the start of round 4 of season 13 of the GT3 Championship with Apex Online Racing. Difficult qualifying. It was raining, and a drying track because the rain stopped almost as soon as qualifying began. So a very topsy-turvy grid. Carson qualified on pole. McCready's 2nd. Beckes is in 3rd. Willis 4th. Viking Rap 5th, and myself in 6th. Would you believe? Manuel Duque just switching to the Ferrari in 7th. Pie Eater is in 8th, Elford 9th, and Sheldon George in 10th. And a few drivers instantly getting drive-throughs at the start there. A bit further down the field as they go through Eau Rouge and Radillon. And there's a collision there. This was very worried and was in the briefing before the race, and it looks like the whole field there is going into a huge pile-up. This is disaster at the start of the race. Look at all these cars across the track, so a lot of cars already well out the running as they try and get themselves out of trouble. Ramshield is going to drive through from the start, starting out of position, so he's going to lose that position, as well as Beckes, who's also going to drive through. He was at the front of the field. Carson, meanwhile, increases his lead out the front of the field, did a good qualifying, and is still leading, got a good long lead there over McCready in 2nd place. Beckes currently in 3rd will get that drive-through, so that'll drop him out of that position, which will promote Willis in the Audi up into 4th. Viking Rap got away cleanly at the beginning. He's going to be in 5th, and when everything settles down, he's not racing, I don't believe it. A good start from me, retained 6th position. Detectors should shake themselves out very soon with the computer. And as Carson comes round the end of the course through Malmedy and Bruxelles. My apologies. No, he's going through Stavilo, Campus and Stavilo there. Coming up towards Blanchimont soon. Has already got a lead of 2.6 seconds on the first lap over McCready. So Carson off to a very strong start for this race. Should see Bequez behind McCready as they go towards the bus stop. Peel into the pits. Just been watching the 1994 Formula 1 and the bus stop has certainly changed. Not as much as the Eau Rouge and Radillon, as Bequez does duck into the pits. Eau Rouge had an enormous chicane in it in '94, but that's gone now. Bequez then serving his drive-through penalty. Ramshield also into the pits to serve his. Dropped them well down the field, but both drivers in for a good chance with that huge pile up there on the first lap. Through Eau Rouge and Radillon goes Carson. His lead 3.1 seconds already at the end of one lap, so Carson really pulling away from the rest of the field. That topsy-turvy grid for the start maybe helping him, but McCready was quite quick at Laguna Seca last week. Did a good drive, finished third, and then going into this round he's already in 9th position on the Drivers' Championship. So he's looking good at the moment here to move even further up that championship. Willis is in 3rd place in the Audi. He's been doing okay in most of the races we've seen so far. Something always seems to happen to him, and then he drops down the field. Let's hope he can keep it together this round and get a good result. Well, not too good a result, because I'm unbelievably in 5th at the moment. Got Viking Wrap just in front of me. And with that carnage at the start behind, looking at decent results for those that did get away cleanly at the front of the race. Duque is in 6th place, and Elford in the AMG Mercedes is in 7th. Bradbury is in 8th place, managing to keep himself clear of the danger this time round. Oh, has he? Has he got damage on the front of the Lamborghini there? Hard to tell. And Paul Martin, the other Bentley driver, is in 9th. Viking Wrap coming under some pressure now from Beeswax Racing. Okay, just dropping off the back of these two. Carson out front now has got nearly a 4-second lead on the end of the second lap, so he's storming away on this race. McCready desperately trying to keep up. Behind McCready, it's nearly 2-second gap to Willis, so this is the closest battle within the top 10. Paul Martin is trying to get onto the back of Bradbury as well. Steel Coat just behind these two. Down through into Eau Rouge and Radillon for Viking Wrap, Beeswax and Duque. Number of cars emerging from the pits from that disastrous start, so a lot of cars a lap down already, having to have to pit for repairs from that big pile up. Okay, trying to have a little look there at the Ferrari of Beeswax, but way too far back to actually make an attack. Number of cars behind. Didn't put the Ferrari off either. Had a bit there going through through the hairpin of Bruxelles down towards the next part of the course. Mercedes there in the background of Elford going very wide. All these three very close to each other. Behind, Paul Martin dropping off the back of Bradbury a little, gap now a second. Gilco trying to remain in contact. Gap there showing very small behind Murphas. BMW, I can't see him in front. Maybe Murphas has gone off there. Torres there is just in front of Lord Nem, the Beeswax Racing driver. Oh, the Rosa's looking like he's going to make a pass there on the Porsche. He went very wide. Wasn't close enough. The Ferrari behind a lap down, because that's nope. 195. It's Javushtik who's in last place, trying to get through on them. So decided to think better of it. Lord Nem having a bit of an attack there. Look, Torres, I think he's got the inside, and he frightened the Porsche off the track a little bit there. Went very wide, but did keep it going in a straight line. But, Lord Nem got a good attack there at the inside. And Javushtik desperately trying to unlap himself there. Sure, Lord Nem would have appreciated a bit more room to try and get away cleanly from the Porsche of Look, Torres. Going to La Source. 314. Nerfast BMW is there. Initially it was showing just in front. Up ahead. Viking Wrap trying to pull away now from Beeswax Racing. Back over a second. UK hanging on to the back. McKinley didn't qualify very well, but appears to have gotten away with a moderate amount of damage from the incident at the start. Now up to P11, championship leader, and his competition really, Rashadko, who's second place in the championship, all the way down to 21st place. Had a really difficult qualifying with the rain. Didn't get very far up the field for the start of the race, so would definitely been held up with that big incident at the start. Well, Duque trying to catch the back of Beeswax Racing. These three still pretty close together. Finley slowly closing in on the back of Steelco. Old Nem now well clear of Nook Choris. Still trying to hang back, hold off the BMW of Nerfas. They're already carrying damage now in this part of the field. Vecchia has got back marker. I think he's trying to recover between them. It looks like Shoreland actually. It is indeed Shoreland. There's a lap down. Got involved. I think he was at the lead of that incident. Start of the race. Shoreland's a very quick driver, so he'll be able to cut through the field. Hope he will manage to do it. There's a lot of cars coming together here that are out of position. Going to cause a few problems. BMW. Fast, I think, holding them both up, attacking each other. Here, who wants to try and get through on the BMW of Murfas. So Shoreland has to take a back seat. He's got the inside for the bus stop on the BMW. He's well clear before they even get into the braking zone. Murfas tries to come back, but he's unable to do so. So the Lamborghini clean through. Shoreland's up there as well. So the Murfas perhaps carrying damage from that incident. Slowly dropping back through the field here. Under direct attack on a Porsche, isn't it? No, that looks like it's Trippiana. There's also a lap down on the BMW. No, he isn't. Yes, he is. No, he isn't. Oh, sector updates are too slow. So Murfas under attack straight away from Trippiana. Go for Eau Rouge. Car's so mixed up, hard to tell who's who. Porsche of Trippiana dropping back there a lot though as he went through Eau Rouge and Radalon, under a lot of pressure from behind. I think there is a potential back marker. Or is it Phil? No, it is P. Phil, so Trippiana under attack. And the Ferrari gets up the inside for Lecombe. So Murfas can breathe a little easier for a few corners, but I think Phil is on a bit of a mission. He's gone straight past Trippiana. Closing back up on the back of the BMW. Jump ahead. Viking Wrap still just ahead of Beeswax Racing with Duque just behind. Still on a mission to try and catch the BMW of Murfas. By side behind Porsche. That's not Trippiana, that's a car that's in out position, I think. Ram shield. Going forward then. Sorry. Guess around about who is where. That was Krasiak in the yellow Porsche. Ray Shoreland. Oh, big off there. Is that Murfas off? 314. It is indeed Murfas. lost out somehow there. Went straight to the barriers. That was a heavy hit. He's not looking like he's moving. He may be going for the teleportation back to the pits. That's a big hit he took then. Look, Choris just ahead of Beckia now. And we've got Shoreland trying to get through. So Murphas out, I think. Phil hasn't done an easy job. Don't know if the Porsche of Karaziak got involved there with Murphas, but he's got down the field. Meanwhile, up front, Duque starting to put the pressure on Beeswax Racing, who's fallen back slightly from Viking Rap. Out front, Carson now 5 seconds clear of McCready in second place. Q forming a bit further down the field. Got Paul Martin forming a bit of a talk of the battle here. Steelco behind him. McKinley now into 10th. Bradbury down to 11th. Just on the back of these. That's a BMW behind Bradbury, so that is a car that's out of position, I think. Dave Carey is nearly 6 seconds down for Celtic Bromance. Long way behind. And a slight bit of yo-yoing going on between Viking Rap, Beeswax Racing and Duque. Duque trying to put a bit of pressure on Beeswax Racing cars to come through Blanchimont up towards the bus stop. But I think it's too far back there. Both Ferraris, so both going to have approximately the same sort of braking performance. Through the bus stop they go, over the finish line, as it were. As we started going down the hill. Trying to close the gap on Viking Rap up ahead. And all behind, that looks like McKinley has got through on both Steelco. He has, he's past Steelco, that's Paul Martin just ahead. So McKinley, or Celtic Bromance, slowly moving up the field. Ooh. Steelco looked like he got a little bit of a wiggle on then, trying to get the power down too quick, coming out of La Source. McKinley's got good pace, he's been miles out front in every race, so he had a bad starting position with the strange weather in qualifying on this one. And that's Viking Rap pointing the wrong way. 7 laps in, got a spin in Lacombe. He's a bit stuck there, pointing the wrong way. He's trying to do a 58-point turn to get going again, but that's Beeswax Racing slide into 4th position. He is going to pop being this high up, but Manuel Duque is right behind, trying to put the pressure on. McKinley got through as we just saw, so he'll be in the 9th place. Next target for McKinley will be Paul Martin. See if Duque can get closer. Has Viking Rap got going again? Viking Rap has got going, but he'll have lost quite a number of places there with that unfortunate spin in Lacombe. Quick look at our leader, Carson. Just needs to keep his head together now, really. 5.3 second lead there over McCready. He's only just exiting onto the main back straight out of Stavolo. Willis a further 2 seconds down. Beeswax Racing. Willis will be a hard target to catch. Viking Rap currently shown in 5th. I don't believe that's correct because Duque is right behind us. There you go. He's dropped to 6th. As Viking Rap, Elford's slowly dropped away from the lead of the race. He's 12 seconds down now. Paul Martin is only a few seconds behind him. In fact, I think something's happened to Elford there. He's dropped all the way down to 11th. Just as we came to, and he was moving very slowly, so maybe he had a bit of a spin somewhere in the Lacombes as well. Porsche there behind trying to get through. That's a car that's at least a lap down. That's Ramshield. Yeah, all the way down in P19, but easily gets past the Mercedes AMG there. There was a lot of changes up and down the field. Beeswax Racing still got Duque behind. Up the hill to go. Good gap there. Okay, we're making an attack this time. We've got quite a chain here. McKinley now clear of Steelco and pulling out a gap of 0.6 of a second. Trying to close in on Paul Martin, who's 1.5 seconds ahead. Bradbury hanging on to the back of this group. Trying to close the distance to Steelco. Steve Carrott 5 seconds down the load for Celtic Bromance. A lot of team action here. We've got Beeswax Racing for Beeswax Racing in fourth. We've got the two Gently Bentley drivers in fifth and sixth. And then McKinley for Celtic Bromance closing in rapidly on Martin in seventh. And then Steve Carey for Celtic Bromance in 10th. Viking Rap now slipped all the way down to 11th, so good opening for this round for Viking Rap of Fuzzy Llamas, but unfortunately he's slipped away a little bit from the front of the race. Lord Nem, the other Beeswax Racing driver, somehow has managed to squeeze his way back up to 12th. So that's good going. Meanwhile, something must have happened to McCready there out front, because all of a sudden Willis is just 1.3 seconds behind him, and there was a much bigger gap prior, so he's lost a second or so somewhere, McCready. Okay, still chasing the Beeswax Racing Ferrari down the back straight. Go through Blanchimont up towards the bus stop again. The leaders now, the front five. 15-second gap over Paul Martin. That's a huge gap. So the leading five really moving away from the rest of the field at the moment. Quite amazing that I'm involved in that process. I don't know how. McKinley closing in slowly but surely on the back of Paul Martin. The gap now apparently less than a second in the last sector. Through the bus stop. Like the queue behind McKinley. All these cars managing to keep the same pace. Over the start-finish line. Through Eau Rouge and Radillon. Duque. And Beeswax. I can confirm, because it was me driving, I was not very good at doing Eau Rouge, Radillon. He's having a little look there, Duque, as they go into Lacombe's, but he's not close enough. Much better on the second and third sectors, but there's that's Willis. Willis, the third place driver off there, just recovering on the track just in time. And the Ferrari looks for a way around on the left. And it looks a bit to the right. Then Duque's trying on the right as well, but I don't think he's close enough. Go into the hairpin. And Willis got away with murder then, I think. He just rejoined just in time. Just got up to speed as both Beeswax and Duque caught him. And there wasn't a way around. McCready must have had a bit of a sweat on there, because the gap was down to less than a second, and going into Lacombe's, Willis had something happen. It was very, very wide there. Keeps his foot down. And the gaps are restabilising again, so Willis was breathing a huge sigh of relief. We did say at the start of the race that Willis has been looking good in quite a number of rounds, but has dropped away as the race has evolved. And that was another example, but he got away with it this time. Willis remains in third. Beeswax Racing, I don't think that gap is 4 seconds when we get to the next sector. He's in fourth still, and Duque remains in fifth. Meanwhile behind, McKinley has closed right in on Paul Martin for sixth place. Bradbury's really trying to put the pressure on Steelco. Goes right into within 0.1 of a second at one point, but Steelco remains ahead. BMW, which must be either Dennistown or Savuda, is behind them, so that's almost one of the last running cars in the field. And hopefully won't interfere with this battle up ahead, which is for 8th and 9th. McKinley trying to close in on Martin. Duque trying to close in on Beeswax. It's all happening everywhere at once. Through Eau Rouge and Radillon again up the Kemmel Straight. Will the Ferrari Duque get a better run this time? That marker up ahead, that could be a bit of a factor. Or is that Willis actually? So I do apologise, that's Willis. Still holding him in contact. But through Lecum's okay this time. Behind, McKinley isn't close enough to Martin to have a go. But Bradbury's tried to go around the outside. Oh, but did he cut across Steelco there? He turned in, and I don't think Steelco had anywhere to go. Oh, but do be careful, Bradbury did drive straight across the track then as well. He's in the grass. And what's he going to do from there? You know, he's transported back to the pit, so that's really put him down the field if he rejoins. So Steelco will be in 8th place. Bradbury was perhaps, you know, halfway up on Steelco, but didn't seem to leave him much room there as he turned in. Steelco very much on his own now. McKinley, meanwhile, trying to close in on Martin, and Duque trying to close in on Beeswax, who has pulled out a little bit of a gap there. So let's look at McKinley. Out front, Carson is now 8 seconds clear of McCready. So a bit of a boring race for Carson. He's had no competition whatsoever. Led away from the start of a start flag, and has not looked back since. McCready now 8.2 seconds down. Got a comfortable 6.3 second gap on Willis. Gap between Willis and Beeswax is yo-yoing a little. That only looks just over a second. The last sector is 1.4. And Duque close behind Ferrari or Beeswax as well for 5th. And quite a gap as Paul Martin just crosses the line, but now McKinley's right on his tail. Okay, we'll try again, going through Eau Rouge and Radillon. Camel straight they go. I have to tell which one to follow. This or the battle with McKinley. A little look at the inside, but looks far too far back to really have a go there. Maybe trying to put Beeswax off. Gap is less than a second. And McKinley's also too far back from Martin. All action going on at the front. Phil and Luke Choris are still battling with each other. These two have been together for quite some time. Beckes has dropped quite a way off the back of them. Ramshield trying to catch up with Trupiano, so Porsche versus Porsche. UK continuing to try and follow. Going very, very wide there, both of them. I can confirm for myself, I've got no cut warnings at all in this race, which I was quite surprised at. Usually collect quite a few at Spa. Finley worked his way all the way up to 7th. Drivers have dropped off the track, had incidents. And McKinley's driving forward well. Meanwhile, in his competition, Rashadko still stuck down in 19th. So Rashadko's got no pace here at Spa. And at the moment, McKinley, even if he finished in 7th, is going to steal a lot of points over Rashadko, who's 2nd in the championship. So the Celtic Bromance driver will consolidate his lead at the top of the championship. Through the bus stop again. Okay, I don't think he's ever been that close before. Much less than half a second there, I think, in that gap. Paul Martin still 14.6 seconds behind, so he's unable to close the gap on both Beeswax and Duque. 15 seconds a few laps ago. Not really making much of an impression. They come down towards Eau Rouge through Radillon and through the Kemmel Straight again. Will Duque get a better run this time? It looks like he does. He's very, very close to the back of the Ferrari there of Beeswax. One of the passing places at Spa is into Lecum at the end of the Kemmel Straight. It's very, very close. I'd expect a bit of an attack from there. In they go, and it looks like the Ferrari of Duque has finally done it. Clean overtake for Duque, moves him into 4th, pushes Beeswax down to 5th. I can assure you I'm still more than happy with being this high up in the results. I wasn't too worried Plus, there's a long way to go yet. We're only 12 laps in to an hour and a half race. Now that's Duque finishing the pass on Beeswax. How about McKinley? Gap showing up to a second now on Martin. So he's holding off the championship leader quite well, Paul Martin, for Gently Bentley. Behind, I think the next closest battle is still Phil with Nook Torres. The two have been going at it since I think virtually the start of the race. The rest of the field is incredibly spread out, so no real other battles going on. Beeswax is trying to keep Duque honest and is keeping right on the tail of the Ferrari of Gently Bentley. McKinley has let the gap to Paul Martin open up to a second. Gently Bentley continue to hold on to 4th and 6th. Beeswax Racing now 5th, holding them to 11th. And McKinley for Celtic Bromance is in 7th. And we have to scroll down, I think, to find... oh no, Steve Carey's 9th. So all the teams at the top of the championship doing quite well. I've not seen Furkan Hosman racing this week, so I don't think he's here. His teammate is Aras. I don't think I can spot his name here either in the running order, so there'll be no points for Amino Assetto Motorhersteller this week. I think that might be good for Gently Bentley the way they're looking, because the difference in points between Amino Assetto Motorhersteller and Gently Bentley Racing is only 60 points. So if they carry on as they are, Gently Bentley, they may well move into 3rd on the Teams Championship. The Mamo Rutter Racing Academy, Phil Reuter. Again, I'm not sure I've seen Reuter. Nope, I've not seen Reuter's name on the track, so I don't think they're racing. Jonas Colmwald's gone to a higher tier. So Fuzzy Llamas, Viking Rap and Stuart Pietzke, or Pie Eater, whichever you prefer, could get points, but Pietzke's dropped down to 25th place. And Viking Rap is in 10th. So Viking Rap should pick up some good points, but the gap between Mamo Rutter Racing Academy and Fuzzy Llamas is 47. So might not be quite enough to move them ahead. Hexagon Nation, it's Chris Jenkins and Tobias Hackinson. I don't think I've seen either of those drivers' names today either, so they will probably remain at the bottom of the Teams Championship table. So McKinley still trying to find a way past Paul Martin as we're in the 13th lap. Beeswax Racing hanging on to the back of Duque. See what turns up. Really, you don't need to press too hard. You need to keep them on their toes rather than go for a lunge in a desperate place and then they're both off the track. I think that was one of my main worries, was I didn't want to throw away a really good position by trying a desperate move. Through Blanchimont again and up towards the bus stop. Can McKinley get close enough this time to make an attack on the Gently Bentley driver? I was going to go for the pits then, but no, trying to take a different line for the bus stop. Trying to find some way of getting closer. Paul Martin. But as we've seen with the pass a minute ago by Duque on Beeswax, really comes from La Source. So you can get a good exit from La Source. Carry that through Eau Rouge from Radillon and up the Kemmel Straight. You'll be able to really have a go at making the pass, or you should have the pass done by the time you reach Les Combes, and that's the way to do it. And it looks like he's got good overspeed this time as McKinley is going through Radillon really quickly then, and he's right on the tail of the Ferrari of Paul Martin. Moves to the right and gets it inside for the corner. So all done and dusted, just like we just described way before Les Combes, and that's the way to pass at Spa, nice and safe for both drivers. McKinley slides into 6th place and increases his points haul. He's going to take over Rashadko who's still stuck down in 19th position and just not seemingly able to make any inroads into getting towards the front of the field. Carson now has nearly an 11-second lead over McCready in second place. So absolute walk in the park for Carson this week. McCready is in second place, long way down the road, but has got a comfortable 4.4 second lead over Willis in third, who we've seen. Perhaps he's had his one off for this race for Willis. So if that's his one thing that goes wrong, should be looking good to hang on to third. Duque trying to close the gap on Willis, but it may be a bit of a tall order. He's got good speed as Willis, but he's got it down to 1.6 seconds. Meanwhile, Beeswax Racing has dropped slightly off the back of the Ferrari Duque. Gap now is 1.5 seconds. Got a Mercedes here, and I believe that was actually a back marker. That's Levitsky coming through the field. Now, I'd seen Levitsky come storming up from behind, and I'd seen also in the free practice that he was top of the tables with some very, very quick times. Now, I didn't want to get entangled in anything, so I did let Levitsky go, although he was rather falling over him at this point, as he did mess up Eau Rouge, La Source somewhat. So this was actually deliberate. So the gap between Beeswax and Duque is on purpose. I didn't think I would start losing that much time behind Levitsky. I thought he was going to be a little bit quicker. I knew he would have a go at getting past Duque, and that would probably allow us to close the gap back up again. So through Lecombs for Levitsky. Trying to make a recovery drive from a disastrous 21st. He must have been pretty disappointed. He was really, really quick in free practice. And then the qualifying session was totally wet, which I think may have caught him out. He qualified well down the field and out of position for his pace, and then there was that huge pile up first time down the Kemmel Straight, which happens a lot at Spa in league races. We warn drivers over and over again, do not go free wide, but they continue to do it, and it always seems to end that way in disaster. And if you just stay out of trouble on lap one, it gives you a fighting chance for the rest of the race. But it didn't happen. Levitsky's down in 20th, trying to get back through the field again. He's going to try and close up on Duque and get through. He's forced the gap now between Duque and Beeswax up to 2.2 seconds. Meanwhile behind, Steve Carey is trying to close in on Steelco. Now, you may have noticed that he's stolen my livery. Steve Carey does have a Beeswax Racing livery on board. I think that's because Celtic Bromance haven't got around to doing one for themselves yet. So it's something they need to work on. If they get something done before the next round, I'll quite happily load it for them. But I'm more than happy to advertise my own team. But Carey now within half a second of Steelco. Trying to get through and take that 8th place. Kinley's opened a gap of 3 seconds over Paul Martin already. The gap is 16 seconds to Beeswax up ahead, and Duque, quite a tall order, but pace seems pretty even all the way down the field in this race, which is a good sign of the tiers being well balanced. But it can be quite demoralising when you're going lap after lap and just unable to close in on the car ahead. And Levitsky's got a run on Duque. Time to unlap himself. He's gone to the left, not normal. Put himself in a more difficult position going into Lecombe. He's well ahead of Duque going into Lecombe. It's whether he gets around cleanly and doesn't spoon it up somehow. And they go. And as expected, once he's got out of the way, that's allowed me to close back up to the rear end of Duque again. So just leaving space really for a quick back marker to get through, get out of our way and let us get on with our race. Levitsky did have very good speed, but unable to really use it to his advantage in this race, following all the shenanigans on the first lap. So the battle between Beeswax and Duque can pick up and continue again. Meanwhile, with all sorts of antics going on here, Steelco has got through on Viking Rat. Steve Carey is in close attendance. Them still in 11th, 5-6 seconds down on this small group that's battling. Ilko has let the gap ahead of him to Paul Martin open up to over 5 seconds. So struggling a little for pace in the middle of the race. Not sure if he may have damage. I've seen Viking Rat got through the first part of the race cleanly, so he shouldn't have damage, but he has had a few excursions off the track to see if everything was okay with the barriers off to one side or the other. I don't know if he may have picked up damage at those points, but Steve Carey really dropping off the back of these group here. Losing a lot of distance there as they go through the Davalo and Campus. Coming up towards Blanchimont. And that's a huge gap that's appeared between Steelco and Viking Rat. Viking Rap's really having a look here at Steelco. Steelco going very defensive. Viking Rat has a look down the inside but needs to be careful. He's really not close enough to make an attack. Through the bus stop they go. Over the start-finish line. He can sometimes do a pass into the bus stop, but he needs a good exit from Davalo all the way down the back straight to make it nice and clean. His next chance will be to try and get a good exit from La Source and try and make that pass into Lacombe again. So Steve Carey surprisingly dropping off the back of these two there. Up front, pressure's right back onto Duque again from Beeswax now that Levitsky's gone through. Rat really close to Steelco as they go up to Lacombe. He's going to the left again, the more difficult side to make a pass on. And if Steelco can keep his foot in, he's going to. Oh, I think he's done it. I think Viking Rat is ahead for Lacombe. Yes, so through there to take 8th place from Steelco. Another good clean pass with a good exit from La Source all the way down to Lacombe. Steelco does appear to be struggling a little bit for pace. Don't know whether his tyres may be going off a little or perhaps if he's got damage from somewhere. Viking Rat through to 8th. Steve Carey slipping backwards more and more really at the back of this group. Computer showing the gap to be 1.7 seconds. I don't think it's that much. I think it's only about a second to Steelco. But you want to get a bit of a wriggle on. Morden is closing in. As you can see, the gap now is only 4 seconds and it was 5 seconds just a lap or two ago. So the other Beeswax Racing driver trying to get himself inside the top 10. Out front, Beeswax Racing drops a little bit behind Duque. Difficult to drive that close behind the car and make all your brake marking points safely. Sometimes it's easier to just slip back a little bit. That's going to be my racing driver excuse. Stay out for another lap. I don't think we're a million miles away from the start of the pit stops for this race. A lot of drivers, of course, will have pitted early on for repairs. What's Levitsky doing there? He's getting a bit close to the cars in front. It's Willis is interfering with now, who's in 3rd place. You need to be careful when you're coming through the field. There are a lot of drivers pitted early in the race. God, they're going side by side for Eau Rouge. Gets ahead. Levitsky still trying to move forward. Ferrari there really slowly joining the track. McKinley, wasn't it? Nope, McKinley's moving at speed. As I say, because a lot of drivers pitted very, very early in the race, I heard afterwards some of them tried to actually run the rest of the race, the whole 90 minutes, with no further pit stop. So they're going to have a really heavy fuel load and really hit those tyres before the end of the race. I tried to do that in one of the practice races. I also got crunched on the first lap, in fact before the start line, and then I got further crunched about 3 laps in, which left me with no rear diffuser and no rear grip. So I pitted on lap 3 or 4, filled the car with fuel to try and run to the end, but the car was so fat and heavy and I was having to save fuel that I just had no pace and it really wasn't a good idea. But I was glad I was able to practice that in a practice race to understand it wasn't a good strategy to go for. But very fortunate in this one, not a problem for me. I avoided all the trouble at the start, so I'm going to be able to put in my pit stop as I planned, which is about an hour into the race. We've had no sign of rain, but the weather for this one was entered as being a little bit unpredictable. and there was a good chance of rain at some point, but it never happened, as it turns out. And so I'd fueled for an hour for a 90-minute race to give me a chance to see if the weather was going to change, and then change my strategy accordingly. And then you can only see 30 minutes ahead in the weather, so you can get to the end of an hour and the weather still looks good. You know your strategy is pretty solid, whether you need to vary your fuel load or whatever for the end of the race. We do have a bit of a strategic ace up our sleeve towards the end of this one, which will come into play later on. Whereas it is at the moment, we've managed to close back up to Willis. He's got a nearly 6 second deficit to McCready, who's in second, but it's Willis, then Duque, and then myself, Beeswax Racing, and McKinley trying to close up to the back of us, but the gap was about 15 seconds. Meanwhile, behind, as I've been watching these three leaders going through, Steve Carey has got past Steelco, one of the Porsches there, jumping into the pits. Lord Nem in 11th still, all changing in front of him. Backing right really had a bit of a charge on. After he got past Steelco, he's disappeared nearly 3 seconds up the road, so Steve Carey's got his work cut out to catch these up again. Steelco slowly sliding down the field. Paul Martin is in the pits, so there will be changes in position now up and down the field as everybody starts to box all their pit stops. The question is it too early? I did see a lot of drivers jumping into the pits with about 45 minutes, which is okay, it's a strategy, but if the weather changes, you're a bit stuck, because you'll have already fueled for a few full 45 minutes, so a tyre change takes 30 seconds, where a splash and dash just for fuel takes a lot less. So it's usually a good idea to try and keep your strategy options open for a 90-minute race, where it is not mandatory to change your tyres. The gaps are stabilised a little. You've got Willis about a second gap down to Duque, and then another second down to Beeswax Racing. McKinley must have encountered traffic. Gap now to McKinley behind first 5 is 18 seconds. He's a long way down the road. Becchia trying to close in on Lord Nem for 10th and 11th. His position is changing as people are pitting. And out front, Beeswax Racing still trying to close in on the back of Duque. Making it easy, not taking any big risks. Just trying to see if the pace will tell. Duque's really slowed down there for the bus stop. How close able to get in the Ferrari behind. We'll be able to make a good exit from La Source and make an attack down to Lecombe. Down they go, and that looks like Carson in the pits. Well, the leader's pitting. Well, he had an enormous lead over McCready. We've got enough time to take a toilet break whilst he's in the pits, get back in the car and carry on driving. He'll probably still retain his lead. Lecombe straight to go. Willis has pulled away a little bit again. Don't know if Duque's being distracted. Oh, and it gets worse for Levitsky. He's got a drive-through penalty, so that might be for track cuts whilst he's been pushing so hard. So all his hard work to try and get back up the field has been ruined. You don't want to drive through at Spa. It's the pit lane is like a mile long, or it feels like a mile long, and he will lose so much time. It'll put him right back down the back of the field again. So Levitsky has just had a total nightmare at Spa on this round. Aggressive driving from the Beeswax Ferrari there, trying to keep on the back of Duque, keep him looking over his shoulder and in his mirrors. Currently temporarily in the lead of the race as Carson has boxed. Turning onto the track now. Beeswax trying to keep the pressure on though. Duque. The gap's really come down, and that Ferrari does seem to be stuck to the back of the Gently Bentley Ferrari like a limpet. We're going to have to petition the Gently Bentley team for a bit of a name change. I think the Bentley is pretty much dead in the water now for ACC. They withdrew from the SRO Championship a number of years ago, and that car has slowly dropped out of being competitive until it's really no longer a viable option for for league racing. It's just not fast enough to keep up with some of the newer model cars that have been introduced to the game. We'll stop again. He's trying to find a way past Duque, but as I said, be careful with the level of risk you take. It's not worth it really. Top 5 finish is something I'd be more than happy with. Thinking long term about the Drivers' Championship, which I went into in this round in 5th place. Oh, a nice haul of points will certainly... 6th place, sorry, 6th place as I went into this round. So a good haul of points will help keep me inside the top 10, I hope. Far too far away on this time through the Kemmel Straight to make an attack. Lord Nem looks to be closing in on Steelco, but Steelco could well have pitted. We've got Becchia, the company behind. Steelco in the pits. Expected. A number of cars now out of position. And with this being a 90-minute race, these pit stop changes may take a long time to show themselves and shake out for the order and the race. Drivers can go for a very long time. Most of these GT3 cars can do 65 minutes with ease with full tanks, because that's the normal stint time for an endurance race. The Ferraris with the BMWs can go even further, especially if you choose the right engine map, so no guarantee that everybody's going to pit around the same time like you often get in normal 1-hour league races. The order's shuffling out at the moment. McCready leading, Duque into 2nd place. Willis has also pitted, and Beeswax Racing up into 3rd. McKinley still stuck 17 seconds behind. He's just making no inroads into the leaders. Remarkable for once. In previous rounds, McKinley's just been a mile out in front and easing himself away from the rest of the pack. Maybe McKinley finds Spa like I do. For me, this is not a good track. I never seem to have much good pace, but just hanging on in this one. Is that Duque for the pits? Yeah, Duque into the pits, so all the way up to the heady height of 2nd. Maybe I'll employ the Nins strategy of just keep going when everybody else pits until you're in 1st place, and then you can say you've led the race at some point. Something he goes for all the time. Duque boxes. Beeswax Racing moves up into 2nd, and we'll have a comfortable gap behind really. It's well over 15 seconds to McKinley, so it's a case of keeping your concentration now. As confirmed, I had more of a long-term strategy in mind for my pit stop. I'm going to see at least an hour. So we've still got a while to go before Beeswax Racing Ferrari will box. And it looks like McCready is also being cautious and has gone long, waiting to see what the weather does before he does his pit stop as well. Shield into the pits. Phil stays out. Up to we're still battling each other. Maybe Phil's hoping he can do a little bit of an overcut and get ahead of Ramshield in the pit stops. The gap's really opening up now, all the way up and down the field. Itzka and Halen all the way down in 19th and 20th. Halen going into this round for 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship, so not a great round for him either for collecting points. Really impact on his championship. Itzka did actually qualify quite high up. I think he started 5th or 4th, but got caught up in that huge clash at the start of the race and ended up way down the field. Now he's down in 20th. Itzka currently showing 21st after doing that drive-through penalty, but he does look to be ahead of these two, unless he's an entire lap down on them. And it shakes out at the next sector. Duque's got a drive-through. Duque got a drive-through in the pits, so he was just in front of Beeswax Racing going into the pits, but he must have been speeding. Naughty boy. Lord Nem is in the Rosas, and he would have definitely caught you there, you see. That's what happened. So that will put Duque out of contention. He was in 4th with Beeswax right behind him, but now he'll drop right down the order, and that'll give a massive clear gap for Beeswax Racing. So net overall at the moment, with Willis and Carson having already pitted, McCready and Beeswax staying out. So Beeswax will go into 4th place. Amazing. That would equal my other good result from this season. So enjoying this. Pizka has dropped behind Halen. I'm trying to close in though. A little bit further back. Going in towards the bus stop. Depends whether these two have pitted. I think Pizka told me afterwards, with the damage at the start, he pitted early and was going for a long run. So I don't think he's got a pit stop planned. Duque's disaster. Pit stop. Penalty in a drive-through. Means that he's dropping well out of contention. A lot of bad language probably going on in that car. Nothing more frustrating than a pit stop penalty. And that may have been a slight track cut there from Halen. I'm not 100% certain. It certainly allowed him to pull a bit of a gap on Pietzka behind him as he went through Radillon, taking a slightly unconventional line that I'm not entirely sure is allowed. There's Elford in front of these two. Levitsky, Elford in the AMG Mercedes in 18th place. Levitsky trying to close back in on Halen following that unconventional line. Meanwhile, into lap 23. Beeswax going to stay out. He does indeed. Joris, we saw earlier, is dropped down to 17th now. Trying to stay in contact with Ramshield in the other Porsche. Shoreland George, who got involved in the incident at the start, is into 15th place. But he's a number of laps down. A lot of drivers here way down on the field, unfortunately, following that big pile up. Pietzka trying to build that, reduce that gap again back to Halen by taking his own unusual, unconventional line as well. It's not part of the track, sir. You can't park there. But maybe he's thinking, well, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Try and get that gap back down. There it is, over a second still as they go into the bus stop. I'm supposed to encourage people to leave comments out in the video. Please do leave your thoughts below on Halen's unusual line through Radillon. Especially as to whether or not it's legal or not. I don't know if he got a track cut warning for that one, but it'll be interesting to find out. McCready staying out on track for an 8-second lead over Beeswax. In through, I believe this is the Piff Path. I can struggle a bit sometimes at the corner names at Spa, would you believe? Because I think they keep changing all the time. I have to keep up. Oh, he's definitely going through campus now before he goes through Stavilo. That's great. Beeswax just approaching campus now. So there's 8 seconds on track, but not that far. Viking Wrap is nearly 30 seconds down now on Beeswax. They really need to wait for these pit stops to settle themselves down. Carson still circulating. He will come back into first place, I think, once all the pit stops settle. Phil, Viking Wrap, Beeswax Racing and McCready all need to box ahead of him. McKinley has slipped into 6th, where he's just emerging from the pits. So the sectors, his position won't update for quite some time yet. But McKinley has got his pit stop out of the way. And Beeswax Racing into the pits. His stop. So the big strategic ace in the hole that we used was we didn't change tyres. We only fueled on this stop, and because we'd gone so long for the first stint, we only needed about 50 litres of fuel, I think, which takes around 12 seconds. So instead of a full 30-second stop, we only needed 12. Let's see what that does to our position in the race. McCready is still circulating, so he's likely to stay ahead. Beeswax into the pits. Mandatory stop for this race. Carson is the main race leader. He's already at the bus stop before the Ferrari Beeswax has even stopped. Give you an indication of how far ahead he is. And just into the box we go, and the crew are waiting. Down off the jacks, the Ferrari goes for Beeswax to rejoin the circuit. McCready still out on track, and Viking Rap's gone long as well. As indeed has Phil. I don't think it can last too much longer. We'll have to see. Carson obviously still out ahead. Beeswax on the Kemmel straight, but where's Willis? Only just passing the pit exit, so it's the pit strategy of not changing tyres and only fueling has got a pass made on Willis. So that's really paid off in terms of strategy. The gap behind showing currently 12 seconds. The sectors might need to sort of settle down a little bit. McCready is staying out again. Still hasn't boxed. Need to see where he'll come out. I don't think I've stolen that much time, but definitely Willis looked to have done a full service pit stop and taken tyres, and that short pit stop undertaken by Beeswax Racing put him well ahead of the Audi of Willis. Carson, bit of a distance up the road, 16 seconds, and given the pace, unlikely to be able to close that gap. Which what happens to McCready really. Going through Lacombe, so he's still got another lap to go before he does his service, and it's very difficult to figure out where he'll be following the stops. Well, pressure's on Willis really to try and close up on Beeswax to get that net position back. I was feeling quite smug with myself at this point, I've got to say. McKinley's also done his stop, and with the gap back to Willis, I've cleared McKinley now by a good 30 seconds, so huge advantage gained by the Beeswax Racing car there by a bit of strategy and endurance tactics used in the pit stop. Eckiott only ahead of Lord Nem and trying to chase down Paul Martin at the moment. Not something to be anything won't be anything likely to happen this part of the track, I would have thought. Not normally a passing place through this sector. But they can get a good exit here from Avalo down towards the bus stop. Could maybe make a dive up the inside. Doesn't look close enough really. I can't see massive overspeed. I hope he wasn't flashing his lights then, because that'll get you telling off by the stewards. Close enough. Going into the bus stop. Ferrari of Martin easily clear. Yeah, AOR is not like the real world GT3 racing where the flashing of lights is banned unless you are the car that's under blue flags trying to come through, and then it's just to warn the driver ahead. You are a faster car trying to get back into the race. So Beeswax Racing in second place, net behind Carson. McCready has finally pitted, so the real teller here will be where does McCready come out. If the timing is right, McCready does a long stop, then somehow Beeswax will get into second place, which will cause huge panic in the car. I don't think I've ever been that high up in a race before. Still a long way around my lap. Only just going through Campos, I think. And Stavolo. McCready still hasn't stopped at his pit box yet. Carson, of course, is a long way ahead in that, so he's just going into the bus stop. There's got a bit of traffic in front. Don't think that will interfere too much. McCready still hasn't stopped. Has now. Should be up on the jacks. Beeswax look to be going through Blanchimont there and up towards the bus stop. This is going to be really close. I don't think McCready is going to get out before Beeswax Racing goes through. Willis is 13 seconds down. All Beeswax need to do now is not cock it up. Famous last words, really, aren't they? McCready's still not moving. And the Beeswax is through La Source. I think it's been done. Only now does McCready start to move out of his pit box. And you can see he's in the pit lane as the Beeswax Racing car comes through. So that will be net second place for Beeswax, thanks to a good pit stop strategy. And McCready is probably going to be scratching his head here, trying to figure out how the Beeswax Racing car has got ahead during the pit stops. Well, McCready's out on track. Willis is just also passing the pit lane exit. So McCready has gone out ahead of Willis, but the Beeswax Racing car has jumped 2 cars in the pits by using a different strategy and only taking on fuel. I get the feeling that with McCready and Willis, that's the only time that strategy will ever work with them again. McKinley quite a way back, so it's looking like the race is settling down now. A lot of the pit stops have been completed. Viking Rat trying to close in on Paul Martin. And Viking Rat's been up and down the field a little bit in this race. They may well have a go here into Lacombe. He's very, very close indeed. Computer catching up with itself now. They lead for Carson out front. Viking Rat easily past Paul Martin there before Lacombe's easily through. Got Becky on the back as well now, who's going to be chasing Paul Martin. But say out front, and it looked like Carson's lead there was 20 seconds over the rest of the field. Beeswax Racing has got nearly 8 seconds on McCready. And a further 5 seconds on Willis, and then it's a further 17 seconds plus back down to McKinley. So all we need to do is keep it on the black stuff. Viking Rat through into 6th place, 20 seconds though nearly to McKinley in 5th. Paul Martin just slipping back down the field. Viking Rat just got him, and Beckier is definitely hovering around in his mirrors. Viking Rat's want to focus now and trying to get a gap, trying to get away from these two. If Paul Martin doesn't quite have the pace of Viking Rat and Beckier, then this will be Viking Rat's big opportunity to try and build a gap on Beckier before he's able to get past the Ferrari of Gently Bentley. Phil in the 712 Ferrari is just 2 seconds further behind as well, so Paul Martin under continual pressure here. Oh, what's happened to Beeswax Racing? I knew it was too good to be true. I think we just missed it, but I can tell you I did a fantastic spin going through Blanchimont, and I could not get going again. The wheels just kept spinning. So McCready's gone through. Willis has gone through. I've done a great spin, and I've let McKinley within 7 seconds of me, which is dangerous. So all the way up to 2nd, then down to 4th. Meanwhile, Beckier is all over the back of Paul Martin. Looks like, oh, he's a little bit hesitant there. Could have had a bit of a go going into La Source, but thought better of it. And as that compromised his run down through Eau Rouge and Radillon and up Kemmel Straight towards Lacombe. That's an easier pass going up towards Lacombe, up the Radillon, up the Kemmel Straight. Pretty close. Said he can get a run. I'm not sure if the pace is just too even between the pair of them. Disappointment and woe all round. Great strats. Beckier has got up the inside of Paul Martin there. Beckier through into 7th, Paul Martin down to 8th, and next it'll be Phil, who's already closed up in the Ferrari, who's looking at Martin. But like I said, all woe up front, was looking good in 2nd place, but I could only make 1 lap before I spooned it up. There you go. That's the level of skill that Beeswax Racing likes to see in its team drivers. Phil trying to close up to Martin. He's hanging on to the back of Becky as best he can. Sector computer still not caught up. Very long sectors at Spa. Flip these places round shortly. Goes. Paul Martin down to 8th. Bill showing a lot closer. Yep, less than a second. Out front, McKinley slowly, really starting to close in on Beeswax Racing. I had slightly overcooked my rear tyres with my big spin, and I was really struggling for pace for a few laps whilst they cooled back down again. Luckily for me, McKinley's got a back marker in front of him who's not being fully cooperative perhaps. I let him through. Should do it on the Camel straight, should lift and let them through. Paul Martin slowly being closed in by Phil. That marker's not really lifting for McKinley. He's had a little look, but he's way too far behind. You can just see the Beeswax Racing car going through the Coombs now. We're really hoping to keep that Ferrari behind as a bit of a blocker between the pair of them. Having not changed tyres, the pace was not as good as those that had changed tyres, so the whole strategy relied on me not making a mess of things and spinning the car. Once that happened, I was slightly easy prey for those behind because they were too close. I needed to keep that gap of about 12 seconds that I had as I came out the pits. I think it was always possible that McCready was going to catch and pass me. So I may well have hung on to third, but not after I'd mucked it all up. So all best laid plans can get ruined. So Phil is pretty close now to the back of Paul Martin for Gently Bentley. Duque is down in 14th following that penalty. And still, that marker is in between McKinley and Beeswax for 4th place. Regardless of what happens, that marker went really, really wide there. But whatever happens, McKinley's looking at a good haul of points. Shoko has just had a race to forget. He's still down in 20th place. He's actually gone back 1 place, so he's just gone nowhere at all in this race. So his championship position, it may well increase the gap between him and McKinley to be almost unclosable. McKinley's been very strong this season, 1 second place and 2 victories. Currently in 5th in this race, but closing in rapidly on 4th. The source is that Javushtik. This guy's in Javushtik's in 27th place here, second from last. Sandwiched in between 4th and 5th. That didn't look a particularly strong drive through Radalon there for the Beeswax Racing Ferrari. Javushtik's coming alongside. And Javushtik wants to try and catch, I guess. Is that Martins? I don't think it is Martins even up ahead, so I don't know who he's... Oh, Martins is in the pits. Burks is just at the top of the course. I think he's trying to catch Burks. Yeah, it's Burks is ahead of him. Trying to catch. So he does have his race of his own, but it was the race leaders that he was mixing things up with. And now McKinley is right in the back of the Beeswax Racing car. We know, I think, from the pit stop timings, McKinley did take fresh tyres, and the Beeswax Racing does not have fresh tyres, so I think it's just a matter of time before he gets through. It's how long we can hold him off. A lot of things happening up and down the field. Further down, Steelco behind Lord Nem, who's in 9th, and I think maybe Lord Nem just gone through on Steelco, possibly. Phil still trying to get back on the back of Paul Martin, who's dropped 3 seconds off the back of Beckier already. Beckier's got a mountain to climb. It's 24 seconds to McKinley. Big gap up to 5th place. McKinley still on the back of Beeswax Racing, trying to get 4th. Viking Rap, meanwhile, has been like an absolute yo-yo in this race. He's now in 12th. sure he was well inside the top 10 just a few minutes ago. He's now right in the back of Steve Carey, but we just see McKinley here trying to get into 4th place as they come up towards the bus stop. Will be outbraking in the bus stop? No, not from that line. Catching up with Javushchik again in front of us. What a great exit out of the bus stop for the Beeswax Ferrari. We've got the inside line though for La Source, and they are side by side. Ferrari of Beeswax should get a good drive through, and they're side by side going down towards Eau Rouge. I don't think McKinley's far enough up really, and he knows that Ferrari from Beeswax is going to come across the track to take Eau Rouge, so the safest bet is to just hang back a little and try and get a better exit, which it looks like he may well have done. Is he going to get the speed going through Lecombs to get 4th place, or is Beeswax going to hang on? I'm not sure he is going to get the speed. So yeah, Beeswax has stayed ahead. Good few car lengths in that, and the break can go into Lecombe. We have to wait another lap for McKinley's opportunity to try and get through. Let's have a little look going into the hairpin, but there's no way through there. That gap was always going to close. Usually no way through here unless he does a big dive. The inside. Looks like he's trying to do. He's going to force the other Ferrari wide. Side by side they go through, but the McKinley's Ferrari is going to be able to carry better speed, and he's got that pass made before they get into relieve his piff path. Somebody will correct me in chat, I'm sure. Comments, and I've got the name of them wrong. So McKinley through, and with those fresh tyres, that's my racing driver excuse. Probably likely to be able to stay away there. Meanwhile, changes at the back. Now it's Lord Nem who's straight on the back of Paul Martin. Phil has not been able to get through and has been caught and passed by the BMW of Beeswax Racing. Is that another pass on? Steelco went through as well, so Phil suddenly dropping off a lot in pace. Steelco went through on him. Lord Nem pushing to try and get through the 7th, giving the Beeswax Racing team what look like a potential 5th and 7th if we can do it. So good points for the teams. If I had been offered 5th as well before this race, I'd have certainly taken it. I thought I was going to do really badly at Spa, so to be this far up and competing at the front, I was more than pleased with. But we are trying to keep McKinley honest. Is it all over yet? So we're still right in the back of McKinley with more than a few laps to go. Lord Nem is closing in on the back of Paul Martin. Steelco is hovering around in the background. Phil trying to hang on. Viking Rap is trying to catch up with Steve Carey. Probably confused, going, why has that got Beeswax Racing livery on his car? But Lord Nem going into La Source. Oh, and Steelco had to get out of that one there, as Lord Nem had to brake for Paul Martin, who's probably taking all the defensive lines and going through corners quite slowly. Down the hill they go, through Eau Rouge, and Lord Nem really trying to carry a lot of speed there to try and get an overrun on the Ferrari. I think he's going to do it. Trying to carry the most speed he could there through Eau Rouge and Radillon. But that Ferrari's quite quick. The BMW has gone for the inside line. He's still a way back, but he could certainly try for the outbraking. He's getting alongside though, and he's doing it in the braking zone. Paul Martin knows he's there, and Lord Nem goes through for 7th. Paul Martin will be looking in his mirror straight away because Steelco is there now, trying to also get through and get into 8th. Try and push Gently Bentley driver down the table. Well, they're going to take points from us for the teams, so please fill your boots, Steelco, and fill as well if you can. Get that Paul Martin down there out of the top 10 so we can definitely consolidate our lead in the team's championship. Duque still in 14th. Steve Carey for Celtic Bromance in 11th, with Viking Rat for Fuzzy Llamas hovering around in his mirrors. McKinley, of course, through to 4th. And Lord Nem there trying to pull a gap on Paul Martin straight away. Oh, looks like the elastic has snapped between McKinley and Beeswax. Gap's now 1.7 seconds. Vecchio's a long way down. Such a long way. I don't think there'll be enough time for him to close that gap up. Steelco is the next one looking at Paul Martin, who's starting to drop off pace, it seems, towards the end of this race. Phil definitely can't hang on to these. He did close in briefly to Paul Martin earlier, but Lord Nem's been past him, Steelco's been past him, and now he's dropping back slowly from the back of Steelco. Paul Martin trying to have a little look at the BMW of Lord Nem. He's closed in. He's not really shown a pace advantage that would make you think he'll be able to get a pass done and hold on to the lead. You go through the bus stop. Lord Nem needs to focus, I think, on getting a gap, while Steelco is behind Paul Martin to try and help him get away. Steelco trying to have a look down the outside, a long way around for La Source. Into the braking zone. He's just ahead on the outside, but you'd expect Paul Martin to get a faster drive out, and he does. Steelco has to tuck in behind again. Phil using an advantage here from these two squabbling to try and get up on Steelco, but it's dangerous to go up the inside there, going into Eau Rouge, and thinks better of it. Another slightly interesting line there for Steelco, but he just drove straight past the Ferrari, and if that wasn't a track cut, then that's a good pass. Paul Martin drops down into 9th place. Steelco taking a slight liberty line there, going through Radilon, but he's passed, and now Paul Martin is looking at Phil behind him. And meanwhile, Steve Carey and Viking Rap has dropped a long way behind Steve Carey there. That clearly something happened going into Lacombe's. There's a good few second gap there. Steve Carey is closing in slowly on the back of Phil there. He's made a big move forward. The Lord Nem is clear of Steelco by over a second. What's happened here? Did Steelco think he got that place illegally and give it back to Paul Martin? Because all of a sudden Paul Martin is ahead. Well, we're just looking at where Steve Carey and Viking Rat were behind. So maybe Steelco realised he'd cut the track a bit too much and let Paul Martin back through. So Paul Martin back to 8th, Steelco back to 9th, has it all to do again. But I think he knows now he's got the overspeed possibility going out of La Source and through Eau Rouge and up the hill to Lacombe. He just needs to keep it together and stay on the back of the Ferrari through this part of the track and make another attack next time round. The Ferrari of Phil and Steve Carey dropping slightly away. Steve Carey getting onto the back of Phil. Viking Rap. Something happened to Viking Rap. He was right in the back of Steve Carey, and now he's 3.6 seconds behind. Steelco slightly overcooking it again there, and that's a dive to the left. And behind, both Phil and Carey overcook the bus stop chicane, and that's disrupted their attacks. Phil won't be able to get anywhere near Steelco, and Steve Carey's dropped quite a little bit way behind Phil. We'll have to try and make that up. Drive through for Becker's in 13th place. Too many track cuts, I think, so that'll be Becker's dropping right down the field. Meanwhile, is Steelco going to be able to get this one right this time and keep it on the track? Definitely a good line that time. That was fine. Everybody does that. I think he's got enough speed there to have a go at the Ferrari going into the Lacombe. Or has he? He's having a little look. Put it there. And over into the braking zone. And Martin keeps it ahead one more time. Lord Nem into 7th. Passing over the line again. Barely even seen in this race. He's so far in front. 31 seconds clear of McCready. He goes down. Oh, must be Becker serving his drive through. Our leader on the race, miles in front, 30 seconds plus clear of McCready, who's only just passing the finish line now, and Carson's already going down the Kemmel straight. Willis only just coming out the bus stop, another big gap, 8 seconds down the road to McKinley, who's a bit of a dive there in the bus stop as an unusual line. Not too far behind, still pretty much in contact. Not a bad drive, I think, for Beeswax Racing in 5th. Just that one spin, 1 moment's concentration lapse. This is Deere and Becky 18 seconds down. managed to get through the traffic and really pull away. Lord Nem is 7 seconds behind on Becchier. A long way to go, but he's already pulled 4 seconds out on Paul Martin, which was important. Steel Coat kept plugging away, and that looked like Carey has got past Phil in the background. So into 10th place goes Steve Carey. Coming round, getting close to his final lap now as he goes through campus. Steel Coat continues to try and find a way past Paul Martin, who's hanging on valiantly at 8th place. And in my opinion, far too many points for the Gently Bentley racing team. Another look. No, up Kemmel straight. He's a lot closer this time. Oh, he's on the grass. You don't want to be doing that. He's on the left. He's on the bad side for an overtake, but he's got some good overspeed there. Paul Martin will have to leave space, but he's ahead before we get into the actual corner. There's a big slide. Did a bit of Fast and Furious there to do the overtake. Another slide there going through the second part of Lacombe. But he's well clear of Paul Martin on the exit, and now Steve Carey is right on the back of Gently Bentley driver. So this is for team points. At the moment, Celtic Bromance do top the team table, but they won't want to lose points to Gently Bentley if they can avoid it. Even though it's a remote possibility of them catching, there are still 3 rounds to go. For all we know, Steve Carey's going to end up upside down on a hedge in the final 3 rounds and not get any points. Coming down the back straight. I'm not sure if he's on his last lap or not. You never get enough information in ACC. In Lacombe, so he's definitely got another 1 more lap to go. Paul Martin under continual pressure. Lord Nem got through. Becchier got through. Ilko got through, and now Steve Carey's next, trying to get past. A look up the inside, that's pretty close. Blanchimont, that's put Paul Martin on the slightly worse line. He'll go for Blanchimont now, and that's easy in the end. He forced the Ferrari of Paul Martin onto a less optimal line, put better speed through, and was easily passed way before the bus stop. So Steve Carey into 9th place, Paul Martin down to 10th, and still he looks in his mirrors because next in line is Phil to try and get past him. Already trying to have a look. Maybe a better idea to not try so hard into La Source, which is pretty difficult to pass really. Not a very long straight from the bus stop to the start of La Source, so you're unlikely to have enough of an overspeed to make a pass. You're better off focusing, I think. Listen to me, the expert. I think you're better off focusing on getting a good exit from La Source, carrying that speed all the way down through Eau Rouge, up the Kemmel Straight, and then you can have a go going into Lacombe. We've seen that work over and over again during this race, and maybe having tried too hard to get through at La Source, you can see that Phil is just not close enough to get into Lacombe, and Paul Martin is able to defend reasonably easy there. Steve Carey's gone, 1.5 seconds, so Paul Martin is being ultra defensive, I think, towards the end of this race. Trying to hang on to this position. Now, just he's the last place inside the top 10. Still more laps to go, Carson. Through Eau Rouge and Radillon. McCready only just passing the finish line. Oh, huge victory for Carson this week. Unless something goes disastrously wrong in the last couple of laps. Phil, after making too many mistakes, he's dropping behind Martin. He needs to stay on his tail, keep the pressure up. He's running out of time really to get this pass done. He can't be too far away now from the end of a very long and arduous 90-minute race. Back onto the back straight, coming out of Scavolo. Way too far back for Phil. Maybe try and use the brake zone in the bus stop to close up to the back of Paul Martin. Stay close to him over the finish line and then start to build up an attack from Eau Rouge. So you got a lot closer there going into the bus stop. Still too far back, possibly to make an attack, unless Paul Martin makes as good a mess of La Source as I often do. All the way over to the left side of the track you saw then, Paul Martin. So he's losing time there. Down they go through Eau Rouge. They both did a good job there. He's closing in, he has got closing speed. That's Phil. Paul Martin's gone very defensive on the right hand side of the track. Oh, Steelco, what have you done? Steelco has a drive-through as Phil finally does it and gets past Paul Martin. Steelco in 8th place has cut the track one time too many, and from 8th place he's going to get a drive-through penalty. He's got 3 laps to serve it. I'm not sure if there's many laps left. If he doesn't serve it, he gets quite a big time penalty, so it's definitely worth, I think, it's a hard one to judge. I think if you don't know how much the time penalty is, it might be worth staying out and taking it. But that has pushed Steelco outside of the top 10 for sure. Steve Carey then will go into 8th. Phil will get 10th, and Paul Martin somehow will crawl his way back into the top 10. The leader on another lap just coming into Lecombe. Steelco, what have you done? So that's 4 track warnings he's had before he gets the drive-through. Must feel like he's at the Red Bull Ring in Austria for track cuts. Steve Carey can ease off a little here. Not a lot of time, and I think Lord Name is quite a distance down the road. Steelco will drop out of contention for Steve Carey. An easy position for him to take. Not a million miles back to Phil behind him. It's 3 seconds though. Well, Steelco elected not to take the penalty that time round. All Steve Carey really needs to worry about is keeping Phil behind him. That gap is of seconds, I think. Paul Martin quickly dropped off the back of Phil, gets no 2 seconds straight away, so clearly struggling with something. Perhaps after the start of the race, if he got involved, he's run the entire 90 minutes with a long strategy, and I found that not a very quick approach. I was fuel saving far too much to make that work. The race has really settled down a bit now. Steelco coming into the bus stop. Start-finish line. This may well be his last lap now. There you go, the checkered flag is out, so Steele Carson takes victory for round 4 of season 13. McCready is still quite a distance behind, but looks good for second place. Still not into the bus stop. So Carson's victory, very, very solid this week. We'll probably doing good boost up on the Drivers' Championship. McCready finally across the line to take second place. And Willis, he did have that bit of an incident early doors, but recovered quickly with both Beeswax and Duque right on his tail. And this time round has managed to hold on to his position, and he's going to cross the line in 3rd place. The Spa-Francorchamps round of season 13. So that's the top 3 across the line. Let's go and have a look at the full results following this round of the championship. Let's have a look at those race results then. Simon Carson came across the line a long way ahead of Thomas McCready in second place, so a very strong victory this week for Simon. Mike Willis was in 3rd in his Audi. McKinley for Celtic Bromance was in 4th place. Myself, Steve Bezic for Beeswax Racing was 5th. Camille Beckier was in 6th. Lord Nermie, the Beeswax Racing driver, was 7th. Stephen Carey for Celtic Bromance was in 8th. Patrick Phil held on for 9th. Paul Martin, as we saw, dropping back for the field towards the end of the race, did hold on for 10th for Gently Bentley Racing. That's because Steelco took that penalty at the end and dropped down to 14th place, so disappointing for Steelco to get a drive through so close to the end of the race. Viking Rat for Fuzzy Llamas was 11th. Manuel Duque for Gently Bentley was in 12th. Further down the field, Stuart Pietzke, or Pie Eater if you prefer, for Fuzzy Llamas, qualified well, got involved in that incident with Shoreland, who's just ahead of him in 20th at the finish, and a few other drivers, let's say, at the start of the race, and ended up finishing in 21st, so we're disappointed with that. Number of non-finishers, not quite as many as you'd think with that huge pile up at the start, so well done to those that kept plugging away, and disappointment for those that did pull out. Matthias Martins pulled out as non-finisher. Chris Bradbury, Tamas Savuda, Philip Murfas, we saw on that BMW, having a big incident early doors in the race, and Berke Aras for Amino Assetto Motorhersteller was also a non-finisher. Let's have a look at the Drivers' Championship then. McKinley we saw finishing well in 4th place, but we also saw a few times Ryszardko really struggling at the back of the race, finished 18th in the end. So with McKinley's 4th place and Ryszardko in 18th, that points gap between the pair of them has opened up to 91 points, and with just 3 rounds to go, and given how closely those two have finished in each of the rounds so far, it feels unlikely that McKinley's going to be overtaken for the Drivers' Championship for season 13 already. Masej Karziak moved up 1 place in the tables in the Drivers' Championship, but he was 19th today. But Jesse Halen had an even worse time, he was 22nd, so Karziak in 3rd got 196 points, Halen in 4th has got 192 points. Both those drivers moving 1 place up or down respectively. Myself, for Beeswax Racing, I've moved up 1 place on the table, but I've really closed in on points. I'm only 6 points behind Halen, so quite a battle forming for 3rd place in the championship. Simon Carson, with that victory today, has leapt up 5 places into 6 on the table. Thomas McCready has moved up again. He's moved up 2 places to 7th. Furkan Hosman for Amino Assetto Motorhersteller has missed the last 2 rounds, so he's really slipping away from contention. He's got 138 points, which is a little bit too far behind, I think, going into the final rounds. Could still be recovered though. Lord Nem for Beeswax Racing moved up 1 place to 9th, and Mike Willis enters the table, moving up 9 places into 10th position. But really, it seems to be for 3rd position on the table where there's quite a wide open battle. There's 196 points, and you've got to consider Thomas McCready with 167 in the fight there for 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. So 3 rounds to go, looking pretty close on that one. Looking at the Teams' Championship, no move at the top of the table. Celtic Bromance, McKinley and Steve Carey have a 141 point lead over Beeswax Racing in 2nd place. Steve Bezic and Lord Nem. Maybe if I'd have got that 2nd place and not messed it up, we'd be a little bit closer. But I didn't, so there's no use wondering about what isn't to be. Gently Bentley Racing did move up 1 place on the table. Paul Martin and Manuel Duque are 135 points adrift now of Beeswax Racing. So if we can all stay in the top 10, it's going to be really difficult for them to close up. But you can rest assured, either me or Lord Nem will usually muck it up at least 1 week. For Amino Assetto Motorhersteller, no, I think either of their drivers were racing this week, so they have slipped down 1 place on the table. They are only 10 points behind Gently Bentley. So if their drivers make it to the final 3 rounds, it could be quite tight with them involved in the mix as well. The Manuel Rutter Racing Academy, I think both those drivers may no longer be racing in the league. They're in 5th place, not moved. Fuzzy Llamas, though, have closed within 2 points. Viking Rat and Stuart Pietzke are just 2 points behind Manuel Rutter, so they may well move into 5th on the next round. Hexagon Nation, Chris Jenkins and Tobias Hackinson, don't think they raced either this week, so they are stuck at the bottom of the table, unfortunately. So that's it for Spa. Quite a long and endurance race for everybody involved. Next week, though, it's back to an hour-long race at Brands Hatch, where it's pretty much looking like it will definitely be raining at Brands Hatch. So a challenge for all involved as a race in the wet. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheerio.